One day I'll remember. It's supposed to snow tomorrow.
That's weird.
I'm a little bit.
And
what's the Shabbos also? I'm a little bit like in a tough spot because I was very excited. I saw the snow was supposed to start at 6 a.m. I was like, I'll be out of here by then. But then I saw that in Queens it's supposed to start at 3 a.m. So in other words, I would be driving into the snowstorm. As much as I've been here for 25 years, I'm not sure that is such a great idea. In fact, because I've been here for 25 years, I know that it's not such a great idea. To be doing the highways will be slick, so I'll have to see what to do. It's hard to have your Talmidim in one city and to be in another city. Of course, the other alternative is to have your Mispalim in one city and be in the other city, and I'm not willing to be Meichel on that. So that's why we're here, Baruch Hashem. Speaking of connections, I want to speak about connections tonight. This week the chefs made a bris, and I had the zchus to say a few words by that bris, and I said really the tip of the iceberg of the point. I've over the years learned to overcome the Yetzer Hara to say all the parts of the speech, and to learn that when you're speaking by a simcha, people want to hear the point that's relevant, and then they want you to sit back down. But there's a nakuda that really goes beyond what I said specifically then, and I would appreciate the opportunity to share it with you because I think it's a big chizuk and could have practical applications that within the next day you already could be acting on some of the thoughts that we're talking about tonight. Okay? As you know, I'm not here just to talk in the clouds. I'm here to talk practically. So, Amalek attacks in the end of the parsha. Amalek attacks. Amalek is a dangerous enemy. And Klal Yisrael, the soldiers of Klal Yisrael, recently freed slaves. One wonders how much military training they had, But the soldiers of Klal Yisrael are facing this threat, Vayavay Amalek. And Moshe Rabbeinu does a unique exercise of strengthening his troops so that they should be successful in battle. What does he do? He goes up to the top of the mountain where above where the war is taking place, and he has Aaron and Hur on the two sides of him, and he lifts up his hands. And when he lifts up his hands, Klal Yisrael starts winning. And when he puts his hands down, it could be exhausting, Klal Yisrael starts losing. So he tries to keep his hands up. Vayiyu Yadav Emuna, he kept his hands Emuna. You know what that means? That means steadfast, like Naaman, like dependable. He kept his hands steadfast until the end of the day. And Klal Yisrael won. So of course Chazal are oimid on this, and this is not a magic trick. There must be some cheshbon here. There must be some meaning behind this. And Chazal say it's a Mishnah in Masechta Rosh Hashanah. Chazal say v'chiyadav shel Moshe oisais milchama. Do the hands of Moshe make war? There's something about the hands of Moshe. Ela loymar lach, the Mishnah says. Rather, it's to tell you that when Klal Yisrael, when Moshe Rabbeinu was pointing up, he was kind of encouraging them to look up. And when they looked up, they thought about the fact that there's a HaKadosh Baruch Hu above that runs the world. And as soon as they recognize that there's a HaKadosh Baruch Hu above that runs the world, everything starts to fall into place. And that's B'chlal true in life. That the sooner and the more, with the more strength we recognize that our lives are completely in Hashem's hands, as much as we sometimes think that we're the ones in control, but we recognize that we're completely in Hashem's hands. And we're just here at each and every day to try to do the little bit that we could do, that we're supposed to do, but our lives are in Hashem's hands. That's when things fall into place. Okay, that's the story. I'm sure that you all know the story. And there's a part of this story that I think doesn't get enough attention. And that is that Klal Yisrael already had quite the experience with Hashem. They knew Hashem already for quite some time. This is a nation that saw 10 Makkos come to Mitzrayim. This is a nation that not long before Amalek attacked walked through the Yam Suf. Okay, they walked through on top. They walked on top of water and between walls of water, because Hashem didn't want them to. If you get rid of all the water, then you have to go all the way down to the bottom and climb all the way back up. Right? Can you imagine what that's like? So Hashem made this combination where the waters on the bottom kind of froze, but they weren't frozen. It was water. You just could walk on it. If you have a hard time visualizing that, that's because it's almost impossible to visualize. That's what a nace is. And there were walls of water that they walked through, neid noizlim, like pillars of running water. The water was running, but it was a pillar. Mind-boggling. Okay? These people knew Hashem. In fact, when they were in the Yam Suf, they pointed. We point when we say Zeh, right? Matzah zu, Marar Zeh. We point when we say Zeh. They said, Zeh Keli, this is my Hashem. Can you imagine? Zeh Keli. So they knew Hashem very well. They needed Moshe to point up. Oh, Rebbe, thank you for pointing up. I forgot. You're right, there's a Hashem. You really think that's what's going on? Do you think as soon as Moshe put his hands down, they're like, what was he trying to tell us? I can't remember. Then he puts his hands back. Oh, right, there's a Hashem. Do you think that's what's going on? Of course not. There's something very deep happening. And that is, Mesilas Yesharim, in Perek Yotes, says that even though we know, is there anyone that doubts for a minute that we are standing in front of Hashem? That we're in the presence of Hashem? Nobody doubts it for a minute. And yet, it's hard to feel that. Do you know why it's hard to feel that? Because your body is telling you that it's not true. Your body is telling you Hashem is not here. Really? Sounds like, wow, is my body such a kaifer? Yes. Because you can't see Hashem, and you can't feel Hashem, and you can't smell Hashem, and you can't taste Hashem, and you can't hear Hashem. What happens when all of your five senses come up blank? What is it? What do they tell your body? It's not here. Right? Is it snowing outside now? No. How do you know? Maybe it is. I know it's not snowing because I can't see it, and I can't hear it, and I can't taste it, and I can't smell it. I know it's not there. And yet I'm telling you that Hashem is here, even though you can't see it and you can't hear it. So that's a journey. That's something that's difficult to feel with such reality. That's how a life's work is, to try to appreciate that despite the fact that our senses don't pick up the existence of Hashem, we are indeed in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's not so simple. And when there's a threat, think about it. Does anyone here doubt like we're standing in front of Hashem? Of course. Because Hashem is truly everywhere. Of course. I've been singing that since I'm 4. Probably earlier. Of course, I know Hashem is here. So how come if I'm faced with a danger, I think that's the danger? Why don't I just turn to Hashem? How come if I'm walking outside and I hear footsteps behind me, I start worrying about the footsteps behind me? I'm in front of Hashem. You know why? Because that's the struggle in this world. To be able to stay connected with Hashem even when we don't see Hashem, and there are challenges right in front of our eyes. It's true with all of life's challenges. It's very difficult. You know, someone's not feeling well, they go to the doctor. The doctor says we're going to do a test and this and that. We start getting worried. We start getting concerned. Hashem's right here in front of you. We're like so concerned about the doctor. Hashem is right here. It's very difficult. That's the job of Emunah. Now Moshe Rabbeinu lived with Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu was such a big person. He was such a giant of a tzaddik that he was like, Hashem said about Moshe, B'chol beisi ne'emonhu, that like Moshe is like connected with Hashem always, in all places, no matter where he goes. Moshe could get nevuah anywhere. You know what that means? That means that his mind was completely ready to hear Hashem talk at all times. You know what was going on there? They were connecting to their Rebbe. And when you connect to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe says, I know you can't see it, but I can see it. And I'm telling you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right here. Forget about Amalek. There's no Amalek. Amalek doesn't exist if Hashem doesn't want it to exist. It's all about Hashem. It has nothing to do with Amalek. I can't do that. I can't have that clarity. But if the tzaddik of the generation is holding my hand, then I can do it. Many years ago, Mrs. Gottesman, you're the only one here probably, maybe Mrs. Nugale, or Mrs. Bernstein actually, that may remember I once came up with a pretty crazy mashal. But I wasn't planning on saying it tonight, but I can't resist. It was a crazy mashal, just to try to bring out what I'm talking about. The mashal was, imagine that I came up with this mashal about 20 years ago, maybe close to 25 years ago, with sound effects and smells, and they have the ability to project on an empty battlefield as if you're facing hundreds of tanks. So they could just take a desert, maybe they could do that, who knows, but they could just take a desert area, and by using lights and this and all kinds of technology and sounds and everything, when you go to that desert area, you hear the rumble of the tanks and you see tanks and you could smell the smoke, and it's all smoke and mirrors. Okay? If I would tell you, this army is not there, just walk straight through it to the end and arrest the guy who's handling the lights, you'd be like, you do that. I see tanks here. I'm sorry. I'm not willing to do. Imagine this. I'm going to say a mushal to my mushal. Imagine that I would tell you on the top of the Freedom Tower. Almost 2,000 feet high. I put a glass off the observation deck. I put a glass. It's a thick glass. It's 6 inches thick. It's impossible to break. You are safe. Just step off the observation deck and walk to the next building. And you're like, but I don't see. I just see the traffic below these little tiny cars. That's what I see. Like, you think I would I lie to you? I'm telling you this glass here. You will not fall. You gonna do it? No. You don't trust me?
I don't trust me.
Right. In fact, even if I'm the one that put it there, I'm not going to do it. Because our bodies don't allow us to do that, because I don't see it. If it was dark, the glass, if it was cement that was put up there, then I could imagine doing it. Maybe it would take a little guts, but I could imagine doing it. But if it's glass and I can't see it and I'm stepping onto air, but I'm told it will hold, I can't do it. So I have this guy, and I'm telling him, just walk through the tanks. I know it looks like all the, what are they called, the turrets of the tanks, the guns of the tanks. As you walk, they're following you. They're following you. I said, don't worry about it. It's nothing. Don't worry about it. They're not going to blast you to smithereens. Just walk straight through. In fact, you can walk through the tank if you want. Nothing's going to happen. Okay, you do it. I'm not doing that. So what does the general do? The general says like this. I want to tell you something. We have drones in the sky. We can see that there's nothing there. We have X-ray equipment. We see there's nothing there. Put on these headphones. I'm going to talk you through it. So I'm the soldier. I put on the headphones, and I'm facing an army alone, an entire army against one little short guy. I'm standing there. Okay, it's this army. I can't do it. It's an army. I hear in my ear. I'm looking at the screen from the drone. I'm doing the infrared or whatever, these different things. There is nothing there. Take a step. You'll see there's nothing there. You promise me there's nothing there? There's nothing there. You see right now, you see there's nothing there? There is nothing there. Take a step. I'll take a step. Okay, but now I want to run away. No. I'm telling you, I'm watching it right now. There's nothing there. Take another step. I'll be able to get through it, and so will you. If somebody who's watching and sees that it's not there is promising you the whole way through that there's nothing there. And that is what Moshe Rabbeinu was doing that day. Because Klal Yisrael was like, these soldiers, these Amaleki soldiers, they're going to kill us. Moshe is saying, I'm telling you, from where I stand, there is no Amalek. There's just Hashem. It's all in the hands of Hashem. Amalek doesn't exist if you believe in Hashem. And with that connection to Moshe, they were able to battle Amalek and to win. That's what's going on over there. It's a great mashal, right? That's what's going on there. This is something that has happened. This concept comes up in other places in Chumash also with Moshe Rabbeinu. Like, for example, very, very, very famous, but now you'll appreciate it on a whole new level. The Gemara, the Pasuk says in Chumash Devarim, Ve'ata Yisrael, and now Klal Yisrael. Ma Hashem alekecha shayil me'imach. What does Hashem want from you already? Is Hashem asking so much? Ki im liyira, just that you should have yiras shamayim. Come on, it's nothing. Just be aware 24/7 that you're standing in front of Hashem. What's the big deal? Is that so much to ask? What's the answer to that? Hello? Yeah, that is so much to ask. And the Gemara asks that question. If you think it's just us in 2025 that we think that's a lot to ask, the Gemara says, Atu Yira Milsa Zutra say. Yira is such a small thing. What's the big deal? Just have Yira Shemaim 24/7. Imagine you're in front of Hashem. It's not a problem. The Gemara says, is Yira such a big thing? And the Gemara says, yes, Yira is not a big thing. And I'm translating this Gemara the way the Mefarshim translate it. Others translate it differently. The Gemara says, yes, when you're with Moshe, it's a little thing. Legabe Moshe, which many Sfarim say means when you're with Moshe, it's a small thing. Isn't that what I just said? When you're standing with the tzaddik, it's a small thing. In Legabe Moshe, when you're with Moshe, Milsa Zutrasai. In fact, even when Klal Yisrael was in Mitzrayim, and they were on such a low level, and they were struggling to build their emunah, it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu spoke to Moshe and Aaron, Vayitzavim el b'nei Yisrael. He commanded them to Klal Yisrael. Sfarim say that Vayitzavim in Aramaic doesn't mean to command, it means to connect. He told them, connect to Klal Yisrael. If you want Klal Yisrael to have the emunah that they could leave Mitzrayim, you have to connect with them. You who spoke to Hashem needs to connect with them. And what I see from here, and this is what I came to talk about tonight, what I see from here is the unbelievable value in our lives of the relationships that we have with people that lift us up. I think to myself of the people in my life who just have that effect on me. Of course, most prominently my mind goes to my Rosh Hashiva, who I see so rarely. I saw him maybe 2-3 times in the last decade. But no matter what, I remember when my wife and I lived in Eretz Yisrael, we lived in his building, and I had a minhag I came up with on my own. I realized I wasn't going to be there forever. I decided that I'm going to walk the Rosh Hashiva home back to our building from every davening on Shabbos. During the week he drove, but I'm going to walk him home from davening. So I used to wait, even though it took an hour for him to finish saying good Shabbos to everyone. My wife is a tzaddikas, and she was patient. She didn't know she would be a rebbitzin one day waiting for an hour anyway. Yeah, so it was good training. But I would wait for him until he was ready to leave, and I would walk him home and just spend time with him, just walking. Sometimes he was quieter. Sometimes he was more talkative. Sometimes we would ask him questions. Sometimes I listened to other people ask him questions. You know what happened? By the time I walked into my house, about 10 minutes later, because it took like that long to get there until we went up the steps together, I came into the house feeling just like a bigger person than I did earlier in the day. There's just something, do you have people like that? There's just some people that just can make you feel a little higher. Just a little more aristocratic. A little more like closer to the emes. A little like Moshe lifting his hands. Just a little closer. And he had that effect, and still does. In fact, today, I can open my notebook of the notes that I wrote then, and even earlier, I've been writing notes of his things since I'm 19. I can read a paragraph or two from that notebook, and I will be able to be oimed b'nisayon, not to get upset or not to speak lashon hara, just because I was reading something that he wrote, because he inspires me. And it's not just the Rosh Hashiva. I have relatives that inspire me. When I spend time with those relatives, look, family is complicated, and nobody knows that better than I do, trust me. Okay? I was just talking to a Rebbe, and who's a little older than me, and he told me, I don't know how he knows, but he told me, I heard that you help sometimes people with shalom bayis, and he said, and unfortunately you have your own experience, because my family, he knows my family, because my family used to be many years ago when we moved from Lakewood, and I was 4 years old, and we moved to Brooklyn. We were tenants of his parents, this Rebbe's parents. We just lost the Zoom. 1 second. If Mrs. Feld was here, she'd be getting frantic calls right now. Okay, it's trying to get back on. Oh. Sorry about that. We blanked out for a second. So I know I've had plenty of difficult experiences in my family, but I also have wonderful people, but just difficult yisurim. But I also have people in my family that when I speak to them, I just feel a little closer, just a little higher, just a little. Unfortunately, sometimes we have the opposite, right? We have those people. You ever have a person that you speak to that you just realize that whenever you finish talking to them, you feel dirty. You feel like that we shouldn't have been talking about that. We shouldn't have been saying it. Why were we so negative? Why did we get into that cynical place? You know, there's some people that no matter how many times you talk to them, each time you hang up the phone, like, oh, I can't believe that happened again. You know? But I'm not talking about that tonight. I'm talking about the other people. The people that, I was in Eretz Yisrael a few weeks ago, and it was Erev Shabbos in the afternoon. And I was getting ready for Shabbos. I was already dressed for Shabbos, and I went to spend Shabbos in the yeshiva. And I was pretty lonely, like going to spend Shabbos. I don't know if you could tell, I'm not really the age to be in a yeshiva dormitory. Could you tell? It was a little strange, and it was a yeshiva I had never been in before and didn't know anybody in. There was not even like that guy that you know, or that person, like you go somewhere, but at least there's that one person that you know. I knew 0 people. And I was the guest speaker. Okay, so I was uncomfortable and lonely. And I was heading into Shabbos where I can't just call home or, that's it. A cutoff in a place in Eretz Yisrael. I don't even know where I am. I got a taxi ride to this yeshiva. I don't even know where I am. But before Shabbos, I called my father to say good Shabbos. And I called him, and I said, it's pretty lonely. So he just was like reminiscing. And he told me, my father unfortunately was divorced, and he told me that when he first separated, people used to ask him, aren't you lonely? He was just schmoozing with me. He wasn't even giving me musar or responding. If you know my father, he's not like that. He was just schmoozing. He said, I used to tell people, I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. In fact, I'm not even alone. Because he felt like he's with Hashem. And when that happened, we got the Zoom back running. And oh, you were on it?
It's like, is this my fault?
I was saying that you're probably getting frantic calls. And that's all. My father was just schmoozing with me. He was just talking about a painful time. I was already married at the time, so I remember it well. And he was telling me that when it happened, he was alone, but he wasn't lonely. And then, like almost under his breath, he goes, "And I wasn't even alone." And I hung up the phone. I just felt a little less alone. I felt a little less lonely. It was just inspiring to me. It was just such a pure feeling. Just like someone reminiscing. He wasn't trying to darshan to me. He wasn't trying to force anything. It was just a beautiful expression of someone's feelings. And I think that we need to think about who those people are in our lives. Does anybody here have siblings that inspire them? Does anybody have friends that inspire them? Does anybody have neighbors that inspire them? We need to remember who those people are. They're our Moshe Rabbeinu lifting up their hands. They're the people that make us feel connected. I have a friend in Eretz Yisrael. We were like brothers in Eretz Yisrael back in the day, except that he stayed and I left. I've told you about him before. He stayed in Eretz Yisrael and I left. And when I go back to Eretz Yisrael, it's always interesting for me, when you do choose your own adventure, you always wonder what would have happened if you would have chosen the other. In my silly mind, he's the picture of the other adventure. He stayed, and it's just something. If my wife is on, she knows exactly who I'm talking about. There's just something about him that I could not see him for a year or two. He's a Rebbe in one of the yeshivas I recruited. So when I go to that yeshiva, he makes sure to stay that day. He lives in Beit Shemesh. He stays in Yerushalayim and he hears that I'm coming, which is such a chesed. And I sit by his table in the Beis Medrash. The place is tumbling. I'm about to speak, and I just sit by the table and I focus on him, what's doing, and we talk about our families a little, and then we talk in learning a little, and nothing else. I just get up feeling like geschmack, reconnected. That was geschmack. I feel good. I feel energized. Because there are people in our lives who can do that for us. And it's healthy for us to maintain and to develop those relationships and not to forget about them. And my chizuk tonight is that we should go through our mental Rolodex and think about the people who, so too often we think about the other Rolodex. You know that other Rolodex? I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the people that inspire us. Who are the people that inspire us? Do you have a parent that inspires you? Do you have a friend that inspires you? Think about those. It doesn't have to be, by the way. I'm the oldest in my family. When I'm inspired from my siblings, it's all younger siblings. Who cares? We're adults. We can be inspired from younger people. There's no hierarchy here. It's just about the people. And they don't have to be such frum darshanim either. There are some people that are just that, have that optimism or that simcha about them or that strength about them. And when you speak to them, you just feel good about yourself. There's the person that you call that knows how to compliment you in a way that makes you feel good. We need those people. They're our Moshe Rabbeinus. And for sure, of course, if you or your husband has people, Rabbanim, Rabbeim, Rebbitzins, it's worth giving a call from time to time. It's kedai. Now, I always tell my Talmidim, you're always welcome to call me, and I guarantee you that if you call me in 10 or 15 years and you didn't call me once until now, I'm not going to say it's about time you called me. I promise you I'm not going to do that. I made a commitment that I will never, ever, ever make someone feel uncomfortable that they called, even if it's a very long time. Last night, I have my Calendly. So last night, I'm looking at the Calendly, and it's a name. The last name is a name of a Talmud of Waterbury from back in the day. And the first name was obviously a wife, And I wasn't 100% sure that it was him. And then they got on the phone together. I'm like blast from the past, And they already have grown children, and it was big nachas, But I hope that they were mechuzik from talking to me after all those years, but I'll be honest with you. I was mechuzik from talking to them after all these years, And just listening to them. They built a beautiful family, and they're working together as a team, and they're worrying about their children, and and they're being mechanech, and I had nachas from that, and it gave me chizuk. And I think that's something that we need to work on. We need to find who are the people who, when they lift up their hands, we get chizuk. Who are those people for us? and to try to connect with those people. And it's Wednesday night now. Let's do do you remember during COVID we used to do these things that everyone would it would be fun to do once in a while, maybe again. But for those who don't know what I'm talking about, we used to like take on couples. We were so isolated then; everyone was alone. And thanks to Mrs. Feld, we had like a few hundred people on the chat, and we did all the shiur and we're on Zoom. And we used to take on different Kabbalahs to call someone who's in isolation. We did different things, and we would ask everyone who's in to write into the chat, "I'm in," and then you would see like a few hundred amens come in, and it was a chizuk to everyone, like to watch all of that, like we felt like we were connected to something bigger than ourselves. But for us that are sitting here, and for those that are on Zoom, and for those that are listening to the recording, it's actually quite the crowd also. Let's be makabel. It's Wednesday night now. Shabbos is in 2 days. Let's try to call someone before Shabbos. Let's try to think of who that person is. Let's try to just give a call. Nothing. Just call to say hi. Call to say hi. You don't have to say I called because I need you to inspire me. I don't know if that's such a good idea. Just call to say hello. One of the things that was hard for me to get used to becoming a Rav was that sometimes people call and they say, okay, I need some chizuk. Could you give me chizuk? Okay, I'm waiting. I'd be like, what should I say? And it was like overwhelming. And there were times that I would like get calls from people going through incredible yisurim, like terrible, difficult things. I got more than once a husband calls and says, okay, my wife needs chizuk. Here, I'm putting her on. Like, oh, thank you. Hi, it's Sonnenschein. Heard you need some chizuk. It's But the truth is that after I became a little bit more mature, I realized those are the easy calls. You know why those are easy? Because the person is saying, here I am, I'm ready to take chizuk. I want you to just say it. I'm here. I always tell my vachrim that one of the easy things in Shalom Bayis, not easy, but one of the easy things in Shalom Bayis is that even if your wife asks you for a compliment and you give it to her, she still feels good. Even if she asked for it, it's true for men also, by the way, don't be fooled. Even if she asks for it, she says, she gets dressed for a chasana and she says, so, how do I look? And you say incredible, it feels good. Even though you couldn't put up a sign that said please compliment me that's more clear than that, it works anyway. And it's a true thing about us human beings. Sometimes it's even a healthy thing that we know to ask for what we need. And when we say we need chizuk, we know that we can ask for it. Okay, I need chizuk. And you could say Hashem should give you strength and so on and so on. We're like, okay, now I got the chizuk. I called for chizuk and I got the chizuk. Anyway, I'm saying all this to tell you don't have to do that to the person that you're going to call. But just make that call. Find that Moshe in your life. Find that person, man, woman, relative, friend, Rebbe, Rebbitzin. Find that person and connect with them. And if you're able to, make it a habit to be in touch with that person. We have to work on that Rolodex of the people that inspire us and energize us and motivate us. We have to do that. I'm going to stop here, but I just want to mention, some of you may have seen that we're having a gathering on Sunday night, right? We're having a gathering on Sunday night. It's a special gathering for women, and the topic of the gathering is to talk about issues of mental health. And I'm very grateful to the people, Mrs. Radowski and others who are involved in organizing it. And I think it will be a big tayelis, and I think that if you don't mind being advocates to get the olam there, because I think I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it myself. I believe that it will be a chizuk for me, And these types of conversations don't happen often enough in the frum community in general. And it's a non-confrontational, non-uncomfortable gathering, where, we're going to be asked certain questions and we'll react to certain questions and talk about things. And some of those things are things that people have the questions and they don't know who to ask or how to ask. And if we could just take the areas, nobody has a problem calling a doctor when they have an infection. Nobody has a problem doing that. And almost nobody has a problem taking an Advil if they have a headache. But if somebody's struggling with anxiety, it's like a mountain to climb to get help for that. And if somebody's struggling with depression, it's like 2 mountains to climb. So if we could together, it's not about whether or not you need it. That's not what it is. The people showing up, it's not going to be all the people who need mental health help are showing up on Sunday. That is not the idea of Sunday. Then nobody's coming. None of us need help, right? Of course. No, chas v'shalom. We're going because it's a community awareness thing. As a community, we want to be more educated and more inspired and more focused and more knowledgeable in these areas because they come up. So it's not specifically about us. I would just be mechazik that we try to attend, and I'm sure that you'll find it interesting and inspiring. Yeshakayach. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Enjoy that conversation.
Thank you.